Change is the only constant. In an ever-evolving world, change is inevitable, anticipated, expected. Join us as we discuss current issues, connect with top SMEs as we talk about topics that matter. Coming to you every month, on air, with Change, brought to you by Humancapient.
Today, and if you have yet to follow us on our social media, our accounts are displayed here, so do like and follow us. It will also be great if you could share this event in your social media accounts so we can have more people benefiting from this session. This is our fourth edition of On Air with Change, where we have been discussing the current issues that is impacting us Malaysians. In our previous sessions, we had discussed on issues such as employee engagement, mental health, and unemployment among graduates. This time around, we'll be talking on yet another change in the Malaysian workforce, returning to work after spending almost 2 years being forced to work away from our offices. As we are all aware, Malaysia entered its first Movement Control Order, MCO, in March 2020, and since then, we have all experienced a shift in the phases of these MCOs. While the industries branded as essentials were allowed to operate during the MCO period, many others were forced to work from home. This introduced us to a whole new way of doing our work. From having the luxury of having designated workspaces at our offices, we moved to working in the comfort of our own homes. While some enjoyed the freedom of working in their pajamas and literally turning their beds to their workspaces, many others, especially parents with small children, had to work while tending to their little ones, and as kindergartens and nurseries were not operational. There were also changes in terms of how work was managed, and reporting lines may have shifted. Under normal conditions, meetings were conducted physically, allowing us to have a more personal touch, and work hours are usually limited to the hours you spend physically in the office. Some work from home, you meet people virtually. And as Malaysians are shy people in general, they hardly turn on their webcam, making us lose those precious facial reactions that we have used to enjoy. Many others complain that working hours seem to be way longer, as employers expect that since there's nothing much you can do while being at home, getting work done became priority. Those were just some of the changes that happened during the first MCO. Now, with our government changing their approach in dealing with the COVID-19 situation by declaring it as an endemic, we are undergoing yet another change in how we work. And what we that is what we will be discussing today in our topic titled Future of Work, Where Will We Work? Discussing with us on this topic, we have two excellent panelists. Firstly, Liana Rose Effendi, Head of Culture and People Development of Bank Islam Malaysia Berhad. Liana has over 15 years of experience in organizational change management and project management at corporates as well as banks. She also has consulting experience in change management and has already delivered many enterprise-wide transformational projects during her tenures at several prominent local consulting companies. Next, we have Winston Das Solomon, owner of Solomon HRIS and BPO Consulting. He has over 27 years working experience in various capacities, including multi-region, multicultural, and experience in HRIT, functional HRM, HR consulting, and systems development, including 11 years of HR and HRIT experience in global automotive environment. So, without further ado, let's get the ball rolling with the first question, and I'd like to ask this to Liana. When the first MCO was implemented, it came in a time where in Malaysia, generally, we were not ready for such arrangements. What were the challenges that organizations faced when they had to adopt work from home?
All right. Thank you, Ruben. Thank you, Humancap, for inviting me to be on the panel today to discuss on what I think a very interesting topic. And hello to my esteemed sparring partner here, Mr. Winston. It's been a while since we last met. Wish we could meet in person. We have a lot of catching up to do, yeah. So let me answer Ruben's question on the challenges that organizations faced when they had to adopt work from home. Since the pandemic happened last year, there were a lot of discussions, webinars, debates around the challenges that organizations face when they had to adopt work from home. So I will not dwell too much on the challenges because there's nothing that I will say that you have never heard before. From well-being to work-life balance to employer relationships and managing expectations. I'm pretty sure everyone here had the same experience, and I believe by now most of us have embraced this new reality. On a personal level, I still feel that I work three full-time jobs daily. You know, my office work, taking care of my kids, taking care of the house. There is no clear line between when to take a break. You know, there's a blurred line between personal and work time. So it's like no downtime for me. On a bigger scale, for organizations, the pandemic has also challenged the way we work and how business operates. Because obviously, for organizations like us, financial institutions, we need to maintain business operations as customers still expect banks to continue operating regardless of MCO to manage their financial transactions as business as usual. So for us, what we did was when COVID happened, we had split teams, yeah, working in business recovery centers to ensure our business continuity, while the rest of our employees work from home or some work from office because we are considered essential service with minimal headcount and strict SOPs in place. And our sales force had to quickly shift to virtual communications to build and maintain relationship with customers because they are no longer able to meet customers in person. And as a bank, we are operating in a highly regulated environment. We are obligated to preserve information secrecy and confidentiality. You know, when employee access the bank system using home Wi-Fi, for example, on instead of our secured office network, you know, as a security measure, not all staff were given VPN while working remotely. This is granted based on job requirements and per request basis. So at that time, many still had difficulties to access our core system and confidential documents. But now, after almost 2 years down the road, we see our employees are a lot more used to working remotely, and the bank has been able to provide more collaborative tools and infrastructure that enable us to work productively, to communicate and get real-time information regardless of our work locations. Last year, just to share with the audience here, we became the first Malaysian bank to implement a cloud-based solution which effectively replaced our traditional employee self-service platform. So as a result, employees were able to access critical information from a remote location. So those were some of technological challenges or barriers to remote working for Bank Islam. On the people side, we are considered lucky because we were prepared to a certain extent. Just prior to the pandemic outbreak last year, Bank Islam implemented the flexible work arrangement, or what we call in short as FWA. This is part of our culture change agenda as a mechanism to instill agile mindset and fluid work behaviors among our employees. So we have established comprehensive guidelines for work from home that supports better adoption of bank's FWA policy. Remote working as the first option for our staff. So we launched that in January last year. Then COVID kicked in March. It was still in a pilot mode, but COVID has accelerated the adoption of FWA among our employees because staff at that time had no choice. They had to adapt, like it or not, because they still need to get the work done. So from what we observed, it didn't take long for them to appreciate the advantages of the new flexibilities. But having said that, although we have this flexibility in place, but at that time, the concept of fully remote was still fairly new, even to myself. And our employees were not able to quickly gravitate to the virtual environment. There were frustrations, of course, among our employees that we observe. People say that they feel less connected, burnout, due to long hours of meeting, the working hours, screen fatigue. Sounds familiar, I think, to you guys. Yeah, to address this issue, we focused our efforts on key three areas to ensure physical and emotional well-being of our staff. We implemented new ways of working, and we continue to keep the high morale through proactive employee engagement. For example, last year we launched a mental and emotional wellness initiative as part of Bank Islam Live Well program to address staff emotional and psychological needs. Yeah. So to do this, we partner with Naluri, a company that provides digital employee assistance program or EAP that supports mental and emotional as well as physical wellness of our employees. These tools that we put in place include wellness portal, what we call as Bank Islam Live Well portal, and Naluri mobile app, where our employees can access various health information and get access to qualified psychologists and counselors to schedule a therapy session to help them to resolve their personal issues. It is accessible 24/7. And another biggest concern that we observed was around trust among managers. Because there's this belief that if I can't see you, you're not working. I often ask, how do we know if our staff who are working from home are actually working? My reply was, how do you know if those people who are working in office actually do their office work all the time without taking a break, scrolling their FB, taking their personal call and chatting, having corridor chat between their work. So my point is, we can't control, but we can only manage. It just goes to show that it's not easy for people to shift their mindset overnight, from the traditional 9 to 5 full time in office to full remote working. But whenever people ask me, I always bring people back to the fundamental premise of work from home. Yeah, it must revolve around trust, empowerment, and outcome-based performance. So for us in Bank Islam, these are some of our culture principles. I'll elaborate further down the session. Yeah, back to you, Ruben.
Yeah, thank you, Liana. It's impressive to know that a Malaysian bank that has done so much for the employees as well. So moving forward, I'd like to ask this to Winston. Now that the vaccinated Malaysian population is close to 80%, the government has declared that they will be seeing COVID-19 as an endemic rather than a pandemic. This approach will enable businesses to open more and more people will actually return back to their workspaces, theoretically for now. So how would be this different compared to for those who have been working from home?
Okay, so let's talk about work from home first before we go to the question of capacity, Ruben. Work from home, if you think about it, it's actually a really good thing because I would precede the word work from home with people are able to work from home. People are able to continue earning their incomes by working from home. Employers are able to continue running their businesses by allowing people to and requesting people to work from home. So if you think about it, it's actually a good thing that we can actually work from home. I mean, I'm a lot older than you, Ruben, but 20 years ago, work from home was not something that ever happened. Without the internet, you cannot work from home. So it's a good thing the COVID hit us when the internet was in full force. Otherwise, this will not be happening, right? That's one thing. Now, there are a couple of other points to make. Number one, work from home is not an option for everybody. There are people in production lines, bank front desk people, cashiers, security, cleaning, logistics, all of these people who by necessity have to work from an office or from their workplace. So work from home is for people who don't have to physically touch a product or make something, so they can work from home. So that's one thing that we must be clear about. It's not the entire population. It's a balance agreement. It's a balance arrangement which works out for everybody because it's a goodwill thing, right? Companies continue paying people and saying, you work from home, we'll continue paying you and we'll all continue like nothing has happened before. Employees are saying, yeah, we'll work from home, although it's very difficult because, Malaysian homes are not large homes like you have in other countries. We've got 5 children in the family going to school and trying to do something online Father is trying to work on one side, mother is trying to work on the other side. There's a lot of noise in the neighborhood. Internet connectivity is slow, and father says, my work is important, so I need it before you. All of those things are things you have to think about from work from home. But everybody is managing. Companies are managing, employees are managing. Okay, so that's the thing. So therefore, it's a win-win situation. Both parties get what they want. One party gets employment and income, the other one gets work done. So it's good. The third point is this: beyond all of this, people have a right to choose between life and health versus income and money. They have a right to choose what is more important to them. Some people will say, at this point, I can't worry about life and health. I need to feed the family, so income is important to me. And others might say, no, it's the other way around. But that's a choice people make. Okay. And employees need to make money, right? I'm sorry, employers need to make money. That's why they are in the business of business. They need to return money to their shareholders, so they would have some expectations of employees to say, we give you an income, we have some kind of employment contract that tells you where you work, etc. In return for that, you work, we pay. That's an expectation, and that's a reasonable expectation from anybody who is paying you money. Employees at the same time have the ability to say, I'm done with this. I do not want to come back to the office, or I want to continue working for you, but I want to work from home. These are all things that people need to think through. Okay? So these are the things we need to think through at the back of our mind when we think about working from home. Now let's come to the question of higher capacity. Is that really a higher capacity? You think about it. Last time you had 30 people in the office. 12 of them have to stay back because they have to work from the office physically. So the remaining 18 of them go to the work from their homes. If supervisors knew what their people were doing in the first place and measuring work, monitoring work, checking on work, etc., and checking, as Liana pointed out, there's a key word here that Liana brought up: outcome. If your management style was outcome based and you knew what your people were doing in the first place, it doesn't matter whether they're working from Mars, Pluto, or at home, they will still get their work done, right? So that's where I think the key is: do companies manage their resources carefully and properly now? For those who do, not an issue. For those who don't, it's definitely something to think about. So the key here is, therefore, was work outcome monitored before COVID? If it was, good for you. If not, it's definitely a new ball game, and supervisors who did not measure this are going to struggle a little bit more. Okay, and Liana, if you think there's some counterpoints on this, feel free to fire away at me, and we will discuss this. Okay,
We still
so
align, Mr. Winston.
yeah, so why do I feel so strongly about this subject? For the last 10 years, I've worked remotely for 7 years. The projects I work on are typically overseas, either in the Europe or in the US. So my working hours tend to be between 4 p.m. to 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. daily, and I work from home every day. My entire work revolves around this laptop in front of me and a camera. That's all I have to do. But work has to get done. Okay. My supervisors, wherever they are, they would have given us our list of activities that need to be carried out, what needs to be done, what needs to be delivered, when and how. And we have monitoring meetings and progress meetings on a daily basis. I don't go to the office even once a year because it's in another country, but work gets done. So there are many ways of doing work. This is not a new concept. Working from home is not a new concept. Companies have done it years and years and years when they are global and there are people working around the world. Problem also is this: employees in Malaysia, okay, who work for local companies, have now experienced a new way of life. It first was a struggle for them, I'm sure, because of all the balances they have to make. But now they have figured out how to manage with older parents, young children, manage to carry out their responsibilities at home, reduce the cost of daily travel, the cost of childcare, all of these things, they've gotten used to it. So getting them to now change again and come back to the office environment is definitely going to be a challenge. Okay, but everybody has to have a sense of reality to say, there are huge benefits to working from the office as well, and there are always safety issues and there are balance issues. And so now, in summary, the option that allows employers and employees to be able to get optimal work output and balance their lives in this new norm, as everybody uses that word, new norm, with the newly learned experiences that people have had, is going to be the key to the capacity question.
Thank you for setting the tone there, Winston. So before we continue, for the benefit of those who just joined us, we are discussing on the topic future of work, where will we work? Discussing this topic with us, we have Liana Rosafendi, Head of Culture and People Development of Bank Islam Malaysia Berhad, and Winston Das Solomon, owner of Solomon HRIS and BPO Consulting. Just a quick reminder, if you're not done so, please do like our Facebook and LinkedIn pages, Humancapient Consulting. So moving on, with so many changes happening to both employers and employees' ways of working from pre-COVID-19 era to now, what sort of working approach should they implement to ensure that work productivity remains at the desired level while taking health and safety precautions? Perhaps Liana could share about how it's done in your organization as well.
Okay, thank you, Ruben. Very interesting question. As you know, the pace of vaccination continues to accelerate. That's what we can see now. You can see employers, slowly beginning to reopen their offices to welcome the employees back to the office. Some companies have started to map out their return to office plans. So after 1 year of working in flexible work arrangement, most people want to continue enjoying this benefit even after the pandemic subsides, especially for working moms like me. Yeah, working remotely seems to be a better alternative because it allows me to create a schedule that works best for me and my family. Having flexibility is important. Maybe I'm already spoiled by working at home lifestyle, but I don't work in attend meeting pajamas, Ruben. Well, many agree that working from home has its advantages, but people still want to go back to the office because they miss the real human interaction. Yeah, we need to socialize and interact beyond this computer screen in front of me here. So virtual interaction, we can do that, but up to a certain extent, it's not sustainable. Yeah. So as HR practitioner, I do get complaints once in a while that staff prefer to be in office because they feel mentally and physically drained after more than a year of lockdown, and I can totally relate to this. So this situation shows that while working from home, having access to an office space is critical. People can meet their colleagues in person, do social connections, and engage directly with the leaders. And for some people, they want to have a space to go to when they need to focus on their work. I'm sure all these concerns or issues that I described just now resonate with all of you. So we are beginning to see the changing trends of work arrangement globally and also locally, even for banks. Some global banks are already putting a permanent hybrid model into practice, and it has become the most prominent themes across the banking world. So in my opinion, a hybrid model is the way forward to get the best of both worlds. Yeah, for Bank Islam, we will continue with our FWA arrangement pre-COVID until now. We still continue because the spirit behind this is we want to give flexibility for the employees to choose their working space and location. Maybe I can just dive in a little bit on what hybrid means. So hybrid actually means combining both remote and office work, and where employees choose their own workplace, maybe 2 days in office, 3 days remotely, or 3 days in office, 2 days remotely, or maybe they just want to come to office just for meetings and continue their work at home. Like what I did today. This morning I went to office to pick up some stuff. And then after that, I met some of my team members and colleagues at a nearby co-working space near my house for a quick brainstorming for a couple of hours. And now I'm at home because I need to take this call. So this is the new norm, yeah, and the future of work is a dynamic workplace. In a day, I can work from 3 different locations. Yesterday, I worked at home all day because I had back-to-back virtual meetings. So you have the flexibility to choose your workplace that fits your schedule of the day. Yeah. So this arrangement allows opportunity for people to still socialize, communicate freely in person while working remotely. Personally, I think this is important as well to for culture building. yeah, especially among the new joiners. So right now, for Bank Islam, we are devising a thorough hybrid work arrangement plan. But I must stress here that not everybody can work from home. We must look into the roles of our people, understand their job, the needs, and also the job requirements, especially in the context of banking, where some of the roles cannot be performed offsite to keep the bank operations up and running. For example, branch-based roles and customer-facing employees, they are our what we call designated resident. So we need to know what kind of job that can work remotely or not. Yeah. So based on these different personas that we have studied in the bank, some employees will have to be present at the office or bank's premise on most work days. Some may need to work from home between 1 to 3 days a week, and there will be employees at the end of the spectrum that can work remote from remote locations as up to 4 to 5 days a week. So all in all, I think if we get this hybrid model right, it's a win-win for both employers and employees. Winston, you can disagree with me if you want, but I think this is the way forward lah. Yeah, but also I also want to touch a bit on productivity since Ruben mentioned this in his question. Yeah, because this is one of the most commonly asked and a common concern among executive leaders, yeah, the top leaders in organization. So in a hybrid work setting, I think we need to redefine the term productivity. It goes back to individual. For instance, some of us are more productive at home. Some of us are more productive in the office. Personally, for me, since I work from home last year, my productivity has gone up. Yeah, let me give you this scenario. Before pandemic, I drive to office. I get stuck in traffic jam for hours. I go for lunch, sometimes extended lunch. Like chat over coffee with colleagues, corridor talks, and everything in between. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not saying this is bad, but I want to give you a perspective for comparison because work from home can definitely cut down on commuting time, cost, and also less distraction. Yeah, and I believe after almost 2 years, all of us have worked from home. We have established a steady rhythm. For me, I start work at every day at 8 in the morning. After my kids start their online classes, then break for lunch. In my case, about 30 to 45 minutes. And then I continue working until 6 to 7 p.m. without worrying to get stuck in traffic jam. Yeah, so the point is you can still be productive while working from home. And I do have younger team members who say they work better early morning because they want to end their work early. They want to go for cycle, jog, evening jog. Of course, I allow them to do so as long as they meet the agreed deadlines, deliver their daily tasks on time, attend meetings, and respond to my calls and texts anytime I drop them a message. Yeah, especially for knowledge workers like us. The clock in, clock out concept, I think no longer relevant. Yeah, so that's my take on the new working approach and productivity, Ruben. Yeah, over to you.
So building on the one that you mentioned about hybrid model, right? Winston, you have had the experience, a wealth of experience in working in these hybrid models, or actually working more virtually in that sense. How can businesses in Malaysia, gain more benefit from this?
It's going to be a tricky one, right? People are so used to having work from an office environment. Supervisors look at their people, they know what's going on. People catch up in the office and all that. And now that's all gone. We are all we are all limited to the screen, right? We are all looking at each other at screen from different parts of Malaysia or KL or whatever. So that's a big change, and everybody needs to get used to. But fundamentally, a business is only as strong as its workforce is. Just because you're a strong brand name like Bank Islam, for example, doesn't make you strong. The reason Bank Islam is strong is looking at the kind of stuff Liana is talking about. This is what is going to change organizations to become much stronger than they were because they are thinking ahead and going forward. Why am I saying all this? Because work from home, has got some advantages to everybody, but working from an office has got many advantages. Let's talk about some of them. Networking, especially for the younger people. I mean, Ruben, you know, 10 years ago or 15 years ago when you started working, if you were all working from home, do you think you'll have the same network and relationships with your bosses and your colleagues as you have today? No. All of us, right? When we were younger in our careers, we met. So the words that Leona used and all, they can be positive or negative, depending on how you look at it, right? Corridor talk, coffee catch up, these were all stuff that we all do. And in some companies, of course, people will misuse it. But this has been so useful because coffee catch-ups and this corridor talk gives you all the gossip that is essential for getting work done sometimes. That's just the way we all operate in companies. Team lunches, training, networking. Now, here's another one. I can give an example, right? So you have a question, you're in an office, and you know that Leona knows the answer. You just turn around and say, Leona, what's happened with that client? And then she gives you the answer, or she says, ask Ruben, and you say, Ruben, what happened? And he gives you an answer. Today, I text Leona and she says, in calls for the next 3 hours, cannot talk to you. 3 hours later, she tells me the answer, but the answer is only ask Ruben. And Ruben is not available for the next 3 hours. So it's a lot of difference working from an office versus working from home. So while working from home has many advantages, working from office brings huge network capability, relationships, team building, and all that. So let's not underestimate how important that can be. Having said all that, discipline is key to working from home. Those who are not disciplined will get themselves into trouble or will be found out. Okay, so if you're going to be working from home, you actually have to be working from home because you're being paid by the company. Okay, so now let's talk about how businesses can benefit. Employers want to continue ensuring that employees can come back to work in some form, either in a work from office or work from home or a hybrid. What is the hybrid going to be is the question. And Leona talked about it, right? 20%, 40%, 60%. I'll call it 1 plus 4, 2 plus 3, 3 plus 2. Which one is it? Have employers and employees discussed this? Because employees are key stakeholders in this. So have employees been consulted on what their preferences are and get a feel for what they would like? That's one thing. Have employers spoken to key employees to understand what their preferences would be? Because when you make a decision now to change it, some people may say this will not work for me and they may be forced to leave. So these are things you have to think about, right? The other one is what we talked about earlier. Have employers learned how to manage people who are now working from home? This is what we call the invisible workforce. How do you manage an invisible workforce? You manage them by setting out the roles for them, monitoring them, etc. We talked about this earlier, right? So if people are able to understand this, both employers and employees, everybody talks, then it will work. If not, employers may end up having to lose their people because people are not just able to meet those expectations. So I think there is, since companies have seen that, hey, this actually can work, people can work from the office and they can work from home, let's just talk to each other and understand what's the best model and then make a decision that is quite equitable to everybody, and then people will figure it out. But I want to say something else. Businesses need employees as much as employees need businesses. It's not one way, okay? It's not like companies need you to come back to work. You need companies too, because if there are no companies, you won't be paid money. So many people need an income, so they have to find employment. So it's going to be a balance. So employers need to do a survey of some sort with employees to understand what people really want. Okay, understand, now that people are used to working from home, what will it take to bring them back to the office? Because people are going to resist change. How many of us will go out of our house to the roadside to wait for a taxi now, when you can pick up your phone and call a Grab? I mean, nobody does that. The only people who would call for a taxi are people who don't have a mobile phone. And that's not even true in this country. Everybody has a mobile phone or two in their pockets, right? Next thing is, the organization has to decide what they need to do to minimize the risk. And their risk is people not coming back. So what do they do to minimize this risk? How do they schedule this model carefully? Use all these findings, come up with a model, and then you execute it. You'll never know until you try. But if you put in enough planning effort and engage all your stakeholders, you are in a better position to make a good decision on this.
Thank you, Winston. It's interesting that you brought up that topic as well, in terms of, employers need to find that there's a risk involved, in terms of, maybe employees are not coming back to work. There's resistance there. But also in employers' perspective, right? What is the challenges that they are facing to find a right mix of a hybrid model? Because there's so many of us who have been working from home for a long time. Many of us invested quite an amount of money to just set up an office at our homes, putting up green screens for some people, having a mic setup and whatnot. But what, in employees' perspective, what is the challenges for them to find that right mix to be implemented? We Because of, in taking into account that we have short amount of time, we need to keep the answer a little bit shorter this time. We'll start with Liana, and then maybe Winston can add on.
Okay, Ruben, I'll make it quick. Yeah. It's true that hybrid model has its own challenges, yeah, the downside. So we need to understand the trade-off. So the main challenge would be employee engagement and collaboration, at least for me, because I lead employee culture and employee engagement, so I may be biased, because some will be fully remote, some will be in the office a few days a week, and some will be working from home full time. So here we are fostering innovative culture, and this requires a collaborative discussion workspace for people to convene, spark collaboration and new innovation ideas within our building. Yeah. And for those who work remotely, they may miss out on the workplace culture and this spontaneous conversation with their peers. So I think that is one of the biggest challenges that we foresee if we implement hybrid. But I think this can be addressed. For leaders, they need to create opportunities for whole teams to connect, even to chat on casual topics, not just work related, to maintain that bond, yeah, with your employees. Another important point I want to make here is the risk of people feel left out or undervalued, especially during big company events like town hall or even brainstorming sessions. So we need to ensure inclusivity. We can to address that, we can have blended approach for town hall meetings where we can gather those in the office and broadcast it virtually to those who are working from home. And for workshop and brainstorming sessions, we can leverage on virtual whiteboards such as Miro, if you haven't heard of it, so that everyone can contribute ideas using post-it note. So second challenge would be the risk of empty workspace. Yeah, post-COVID, we anticipate around 30% of our employees will work full-time in office. So we are planning to convert the empty spaces into collaborative workspace or social hubs that can foster and boost collaboration. There need to be other configuration as well, such as hot desking areas, working booth, just to give alternative options for staff who wants to do a virtual call. Yeah, so we are looking at maybe 70% innovation and collaboration setting and 30% individual workplace. They are still employees who need their dedicated workspace because they are dealing with confidential documents. So this planning is still in our pipeline. Thirdly, my third point is the well-being support. Yeah, we need to ensure this is also important aspect for us to pay attention to, because hybrid work may cause disruption in employees lives as they try to adjust the pace. So it's critical for us to support their well-being. But lucky for us, we have the mental emotional platform already in place. We will continue to do so to support employees with necessary resources and assistance. And fourthly, this is unique to banking environment. We need to ensure our data protection and mitigate cybersecurity risk, because employees can work from anywhere, even from co-working space, yeah, outside, beyond their home. So they need to use maybe shared non-bank devices or workspaces. So strong advocacy and continuous education is key, so that each and every employee understands the importance of handling the data, handling data the right way, protect data loss and uphold customer data integrity at all times. So we must look at all angles to make this work. Yeah. Over to maybe Mr. Winston want to add any points?
Just that, you cannot please everybody. In any organization, whatever policy you come up with, you cannot please everybody. Somebody is bound to be unhappy. That's the reality of life, right? As long as employers are doing the right thing from the health and safety side, they can show the authorities and the employees that they've taken care of the health side completely. Sanitation, cleaning, everything is ready. So your guys are safe, guys and girls are safe to come back to work. Okay, that's done. And they've done enough employee engagement sessions with people to understand what people really want. And then you have no choice but to make a decision on the best possible model based on all the information you have, and then go for it. There's no perfect answer. The perfect answer used to be everybody work from the office. Now it has changed, and we just have to figure out what will work best for people.
Thank you very much, both of you. I'm so sorry for rushing you, but out of interest of time, we are a little bit behind time. So, as employees are working in a flexible working environment, managers now play a bigger role in ensuring that companies function optimally. Project managers, for instance, has to ensure that deliverables are completed as per schedule and submitted in accordance to clients' expectations. Keeping in mind that the team dynamics can be complex with different employees and having different issues that they face when they work from home and having to keep their team's morale high, and how can managers better prepare themselves, and what sort of competencies that they should foster when ensuring that the work is being done aligned with the company vision and missions. We've got to keep it within 5 minutes. So I'll go with Winston first.
Okay, so my boss in a project that I work for today is based in the US. If you had asked her this question, she'll say, no difference. It doesn't make a difference to me whether Winston works for me in the office in Ohio or he works for me in Kuala Lumpur. It doesn't make a difference because I give him a set of things to do. We monitor it and we check daily progress meetings, etc. That's the way we have always done things. So what I'm trying to say here is this: it's not a new way for managers to do their work. Managers should have always been doing this as a role. If they didn't do it, they better start learning quickly because this is a new way of working. There's been no change. People have always been working. No, the average employee has always worked. If the managers did not understand that and learn how to monitor and coordinate their work, too bad. They have to start learning. And because of the way you position the question, I'm being very harsh on this one. Managers need to know their jobs as well. Let's not make it look like it's only the downline people who need to know their jobs. Managers should do their jobs as well. Over to you, Leana.
Right. Hybrid model is a new concept for everyone. So it is a culture change, yeah, on a bigger scheme of thing. Like other culture change, it starts at the top. So if you ask me of how this model can be adopted effectively, I would go back to change management approach. It starts with the top. It starts with preparing not just the managers, but the employees in terms of the mindset, the behaviors, as well as their capabilities. So in terms of mindsets and behaviors, in Bank Islam, we drive this effort holistically, yeah, from culture change perspective, because hybrid or flexible work arrangement that we introduce is just one of the enablers to realize the culture vision. We must be clear on the cultural vision. We want to promote agility, flexibility, collaborative, innovative work culture with strong emphasis on Islamic values that promotes trust and integrity, because that's our DNA as Bank Islam. So at the bank level, we make it clear our culture vision. So everyone has the same level of commitment and passion towards moving towards a common goal. Okay, so communication here is key. The middle managers and below are tasked to provide clarity as well on the bank-wide goals, their division goals, their department goals, and down to the team goals. So because of this, people will support to the bigger agenda of what the bank is doing. So communication is key, like I mentioned just now. So we also put in place a well-defined behavior indicators to establish a common set of behavior competencies for employees to use as a guide in their day-to-day work. So managers can use this as well when they do their performance evaluation. Okay. Now, the point I want to make is capability building is also one of the key levers to shift behaviors. Both people managers and individual contributors must learn how to manage remote teams effectively, do regular check-ins, communicate effectively, and show more compassion or empathy. So we run specific programs just for this purpose. Yeah, part of the curriculum is to equip managers with skills to read cues or signals when their employees in stress. Maybe they notice sudden drop in performance or work quality. That means that actually signals the staff need to have conversation with you to understand further on what issues they are facing. So those are some of the competencies and the mindset shift that we need to be mindful of when we implement hybrid. Yeah.
Oh, those are great insights. Thank you very much. Now we'll be taking a short break. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. And when we come back, we'll be answering the questions that have been flooding our comment section.
Change is the only constant. Organizations need to constantly change and evolve to remain relevant and to move forward no matter the industry. In order for a change to be successful, it is important that you know where your people stand in accepting this change. Without this knowledge, your endeavor may be met with resistance, which will cause your effort to crumble, and a high chance your change initiative will fail. Humancap presents Change Compass, your beacon of change. The Change Compass helps your organization to manage change in a more effective manner by helping you understand the readiness of your organization, plan the change management initiative, and measure its effectiveness. We do this by first engaging your people. Humancap proprietary survey questionnaire helps you to understand how well the change initiative is perceived and understood by your employees. Once we have received the feedback, all necessary data will be translated into a dashboard, which will provide you with a great level of understanding and visibility of your organization's readiness based on departments, divisions, units, and locations. The Change Compass would assist you in making key decisions on the types of change management interventions that are required based on where your organization stands on the readiness scale. The Change Compass, your beacon of change, helps power a smooth transition of change for your organization and your people. Humancap, enabling change, empowering people. To know more about our solutions, email us at inquiry@humancap.com.my.
Welcome back to On Air with Change. Today we're talking about future of work. Where will we work? And now we've reached to the Q&A session. So our first question, and we would like to ask this to Winston from Jana. What are some advice approach to address those who have anxiety about coming back to office?
Thanks a lot, Jana, for asking me that question. It's a good one. And the question, I guess, is why the anxiety? What are they anxious about? I think it's a key thing that organizations need to address. One key anxiety that many people talk about is the health and safety issue. We have heard of enough times where employers ask people to come back to the office, and the day after people return to the office, somebody picked up COVID in one floor and the whole place has to be shut down again or something. So people are naturally nervous. That's one thing. There's the other anxiety of, I've completely rebalanced my life now. Like my children's education is managed, tuition, everything has been managed, and now I have to go back again and start all over again. I have to incur new costs, etc. I think this is where, coming from a very long HR background, I think this is where HR plays a key role. HR needs to support employees in this matter, have discussions, engagement sessions to talk them through it and give them advice and support. Although fundamentally we are all adults, if we are working in this country, you are typically an adult. So we all have to behave like adults. We cannot expect that everything is going to flow our way. So if you're used to working in office and then you went to a work from home environment and now you have some anxieties, we have to face up to some of them, but the organization will also need to support people through some of these changes that they are now going through.
Thank you, Winston. So, moving on to the next question, we have from Angeline Magnus. I would like to ask this to Liana. How do we sustain the culture of staff in this new norm?
Okay, thank you, Angeline, for asking. It goes back to your culture vision. You need to be clear what is your culture vision, and you build from there. Yeah, and engagement is also key. You need to continue engaging your staff, like I mentioned, even though it's virtually. No matter where they are at home or they are in office. You need to include them. Yeah, so that they won't feel left out. As a leader, you are advised to do check-in, frequent check-in with staff to converse, or to have conversation on non-work related, just to catch up with your staff so that they feel engaged. Yeah, and you can sustain those harmonious work relationship. And it's key also if for an organization to be clear on what are your shared values, because the shared values will gel people together, and those are the fundamental or the core of your culture. So you need to be clear on your shared values and drive activities based on that.
Okay, moving on to the next question. We have Idora Baharudin, and this is specific to Liana. How do you measure productivity for employees who are working from home mode, since your organization applies the hybrid mode?
Okay, I think I've covered some of the points just now in my earlier answers. Yeah, we measure performance or productivity based on outcome or result. So in doing this, we need to be clear. What are the expectation? We need to have clearly defined goals at the earliest to help employees plan their efforts accordingly and ask for help when needed. So setting a clear expectation and goals and be clear on direction is key. Then when those are clear, we need to give flexibility and empowerment. Yeah, leaders must start exercising empowerment. Empowerment is let the team figure out and trusting your team to deliver what has been agreed, and also to deliver within the agreed deadline. So then we need to measure, ataupun we need to track their performance by doing regular check-in, frequent performance review, because we can't wait towards end of the year to measure their performance. So those are the changes that you need to make in terms of performance to measure the output of your employees. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Liana, on that. Moving on, we have Ahmad Fakri, who's asking on bosses have been sending messages after office hours, weekends, and public holidays, etc. Is this a new norm that we have to adopt and adapt? What measures and interventions should be introduced if you need to improve work-life balance? I think we'll go with Winston first, and if Liana, you have something to add, please do so.
This has happened forever. I don't think it started with work from home. Bosses, so first of all, bosses who ask you to do something outside of office hours are obviously being unreasonable, right? Because we are paid to work during a certain period of time. Everybody talks about work-life balance. People preach about it like it's the gospel, and then they don't do it. So that happens everywhere. So people who expect you to do work outside of office hours are already not being reasonable, because that's not your, stated goal. But people have done this all the time. It's not starting now. I mean, I've been working for almost 30 years. I've had bosses ask me to do things over weekends and things all the time. So I don't think it's new. The fact that people are doing this is, I wouldn't join this and say this has got something to do with work from home. I suspect, and I could be wrong, I suspect that the bosses who ask you to do this would do this whether you work from home or not. If it becomes too much of an issue, people should just switch off their telephones and live their lives if that's what is important to them. It's a choice that you have to make. And I can't think of an answer because this is something that many bosses do, whether you work from home or not. I got horror stories about this from my working experience. It has not changed. It's definitely not something that people should expect to be the norm. Definitely not.
Lina, would you want to add something to it?
Yeah, so I think it goes back to trust. Yeah, we need and respect. We need to understand the work preference of each of our employee, because working in hybrid environment, they are also dividing their attention to work and also their personal attending to their personal matters. So we need to understand where to turn on and turn off. Different individual has different turn on and turn off point. So if you know that your employees work until 6 p.m., you can still send emails, messages, but don't expect them to respond immediately. Yeah, they are not obligated to respond immediately. But if employees respond, that's their choice. Yeah, maybe like me, for example, I'm guilty of doing this as well, but I give enough warning. I warn my team that, okay, I'm just putting here before I forget, so you can respond when you're free. Those sort of things to manage expectation. So I touched about trust just now. So this the underlying factor, sometimes about trust lah. Trust, is a two-way street. Yeah, but personally it starts with leaders. So as a boss, I think you need to role model this behavior and start fostering a healthy work culture, even in remote working environment. Okay, so that's my take, Ruben.
Yep, thank you very much. We'll go with our final question for the day. Okay, this is a bit sensitive for some. Will salary rate be impacted due to this change from office culture to work from home culture? I think some of the consideration that they're talking about is the travel allowances. There's certain allowances that is usually part of the salary because you travel and you move to work and office and whatnot. I think that would it change? We'll go with Liana first.
Okay, interesting question. But if it will change, I think it should go higher for me, honestly, because I work, around the clock. I think working from home. No, I'm just kidding. So I don't think it will affect the salary structure. Yeah. So this is not something that we decide anything lah in the back. Yeah.
Vincent, maybe you want to add on based on your experience?
Yeah. So base salary, should it change? My question would be why? If you're working for X number of hours and doing all of this, if you are a senior manager finance before COVID and you're still a senior manager finance and you're going to go back to become a senior manager finance, why would it change? So base salary, I don't think there's any discussion around that. In terms of allowances, I think that's a different story because I think it is fair for an employer to say, we provided a travel allowance. Our travel allowance very clearly states that this is to enable you to travel from your home to your workplace. So there is some discussion that can be had around things like that, very specifically, and I think employers need to justify these decisions very carefully. At the same time, understanding that these decisions can also impact them negatively because people can say, okay, if you're not going to give me this salary, I'll leave anyway. This COVID is not going to be in favor of employers alone, okay? It's in the favor of employees as well. So to answer the question, I would ask, why would that be a change if there's a justifiable reason, like travel allowance, for example? Perhaps. The rest of the things, I think not.
Okay, with that final question, we have reached the end of our session today. So to conclude our session this evening, we believe that the most important aspect is finding the right balance if you're implementing either work from home, work from office, or even trying to implement a hybrid model. Employers have to take into consideration the needs, personas, and the safety of employees, whereas the employees also do need to take into account that there is something called business nature, the operating model that business subscribes to, and as well as if their own job is possible to be done from just working from home or working from office. So that has to be brought into consideration, and then we would be thinking about trying to implement so many different ways of working in future. While we are moving to a future of hybrid working model, it could be the way moving forward, but its implementation is quite limited, and it has to be understood by all parties. And you have to understand and appreciate the business that you are in and working in, especially. So thank you very much, both Liana and Winston, for sharing so much today. And I'm Ruben. I'm signing off. Stay tuned for more On Air with Change by Humancap coming next month. Thank you both. Thank you, everyone.
Humancap's change management expertise is translated through our consultancy services and our learned programs. Our goal is to assist our clients through their change management journey to make it an effortless and seamless experience using our change management model. Our consultancy services focus on change management delivery with specialization in system integration implementation projects. Humancap has obtained the Qualified Education Provider QEP status from the Association of Change Management Professionals ACMP for our Change Management Certification Program. At Humancap, we understand your specific needs and strive to incorporate them in our change approach while striving to humanize change to help you better adapt to new systems and processes.